Welcome to In the Cut, presented by Black Nonbelievers, the show that gets you up close and personal with BN and our community.
Good afternoon, evening, or morning. Welcome to In the Cut, the show that gets you up close and personal with Black nonbelievers in our community. My name is Edith Gray, and I'm your host for today. If you are new to the channel, In the Cut is a production of Black Nonbelievers. We're a 501c3 organization. We're headquartered in the Atlanta area, where we connect with other Blacks and allies who are living free of religion and might otherwise be shunned by family and friends. We provide a caring, friendly, and informative community. Instead of accepting dogma, we determine truth and morality through reason and evidence. The mission of Black Nonbelievers is to provide secular fellowship. We nurture and support non-believers in coming out and in open identification. We encourage pride in non-religious communities and non-religious identities. We educate the public on the history and the current state of non-belief in the Black community, and we organize events and charitable causes. BN welcomes all, regardless of age, gender, sexual identity, gender identity, national origin, or racial identity. However, our content and our work prioritizes Black non-religious voices. So this time I would like to welcome Mandisa Thomas to the show, the president and founder of Black Nonbelievers. Hello.
Hello, Edith. How are you doing today in that sunny Mexican weather?
I am chilling, really, because now it's past the time when I could be outside. It's learning the new schedule of how to manage the extreme temperatures here. So good to be here. Good to be here.
Awesome. And it's interesting because we just experienced a cold front here in the Atlanta area as well. There was just like a tornado that passed through and it became extremely cold. And then it warmed up again. And we just had happy equinox. The first day of spring was yesterday. So we are officially in spring. And the pollen is the pollen is in full force. Here, yes, and the family suffers with allergies, so we're dealing with that. But we're looking forward to a very, very hectic and busy spring and summer here at Black Nonbelievers, and looking forward, I'm looking forward to everything that we have coming up. Before we get into our special guest, really excited. Been wanting to have this guest on for a while. I just want to take a moment and in memoriam to reflect on Richard Peacock, who established our first ever BN affiliate outside of the Atlanta area. Richard, we first met him at an American Atheist regional event in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at the end of 2011. And he expressed interest in starting a group in the Metro Orlando area. And so in 2012, we helped establish the BN of Metro Orlando affiliate. That was when we first seriously considered expanding Black Nonbelievers to a national platform after we did that. And so that was our first ever affiliate outside of Atlanta. And the affiliate was active for about a good 6 years. And eventually Richard had stepped down and someone else, shout out to Barbara, who's still an active member, had taken his place, but unfortunately we just couldn't get anyone to keep it going. But recently he passed away. I learned that he passed away of a health condition. And while he and I had not been in touch, and I wish we had been able to keep in touch a lot better than we did, I certainly do appreciate Richard and the folks in the Orlando area for the activism that and the network that they created, because from what I understand, they stayed in touch with each other. They still hung out, and some of them still attended. I had the opportunity to see a few of them at the biannual free flow conference in Orlando. It's the Free Thought Florida conference that takes place every 2 years. Had the opportunity to see some of them while I spoke there, and so some of us still, we still keep in touch, and so I just want to send my condolences to everyone who knew Richard and Richard down there. And as always, we always look for folks who are willing to step up and reactivate or either start a new affiliate group or reactivate any group where we were previously and would like to start it up again. So, we in our 15 years of an organization, this is a part of the history, and we remember those who were a part of us and who are no longer here with us. And so that is, we definitely, I just want to take a moment to recognize and remember Richard for his accomplishments to Black non-believers, especially in the Orlando area, for the time that he was with us.
Yes, and that's a very moving testimony about fellowship. That's the word I always go back to, but making sure that we all feel included and have a place to be in community with one another. And it sounds like he was very passionate about that. And we are very sorry for the loss of Richard. But yeah, we will hope that we can find someone to pick up the mantle. It sounds like we're on our way to do so. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're going to say this before we get to our event announcements, is that I wish we had like the horn sound. We now officially are the Revival of Reason 2026 is live and available for registration. It'll be June 12th through the 14th in Atlanta at the Atlanta Free Thought Hall and Pavilion. We're celebrating 15 years of BN with some special guests. You can get your tickets now. The link is in the description. And there's just a starting lineup of who you will see there. It will be in person and virtual. So do get your tickets for the virtual component if you can't join us in person. So a very reasonable rates. If you are an official BN member, you received an email with your member discount code. If you aren't already a member, you will receive the membership, the discount code for the Revival of Reason. Get your special discount. And so, yeah, we're getting ready in June. We're going to be celebrating. We're going to have special, our guest speakers. We're going to have some musicians. We're going to have other music there, and we're going to have a cookout. We're going to have a really, really good time. So, we'll start out with the Friday night cookout, and then we'll have a Saturday jam. We'll have our speakers and panels in between. And I'd like to give a special shout out to the Freedom from Religion Foundation and Americans United for Separation of Church and State for supporting this event. And so get your tickets now. Again, you can sign up to virtually attend. This is a part of celebrating 15 years of Black non-believers, and we are still fundraising. For 15 years, we are trying to raise $50,000 to continue our work. So please drop us a donate. Please donate via the chat. Thank you to everyone who has dropped us a super chat so far. We will read those super chats at the end of the show. Remember, our channel is monetized, so please do support the work that we do. We definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely. We are excited about the year to come, and we're excited about the guests that we have coming on now. We have, at this time, we would like to welcome our special guest. Volcy Thoughts is his moniker online. Volcy is a content creator and a debater who runs a debate discussion stream called Bring That Smoke, where they discuss the merits of faith, government policy, and social issues. He started his deconstruction journey in his early 20s when he was challenged by a simple statement. The statement was, "I understand what you believe, but you haven't told me why you believe it." And that started a cascade of questions that he pushed to the back of his mind, but then went on a 10-year soul-searching journey that ended up in atheism. Volcy now does his streams in order to normalize Black irreligiousness, promote critical thinking, and create community. Welcome to ITC, Volcy. It's great to have you.
How's it going? How's it going, guys? I wish I had a fanfare as well, but I love being here. I appreciate you.
Sometimes I'll do a little intro there. But anyway, thank you for being here. Now, here's something interesting. As I was preparing for today's show last night and a couple of days, I was looking at your content, and it started to creep into the back of my mind that I had come across you somewhere in the interwebs a few years ago, maybe. I don't know if we maybe have even interacted online, but it came to my mind because we have a similar tattoo.
We do. Yeah.
Right? The Fawahodi. And so I thought, wait a minute. I think I somehow looked up something about that. Anyway, it's a great tattoo. I like it.
It is. I love it.
And I don't know, for me, I think my research about it was that it means self-determination and liberty, right? Yes. Something along those lines?
Self-determination, yes.
Yes, what'd you say?
Yeah, self-reliance, self-determination, basically that's what it means.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was something that I was like, oh, okay. But anyway, thank you for being on the show. And what we like to ask our guests, if you could share your upbringing, especially, how you arrived at your non-religious perspective.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. Thank you all so much for having me here. Number one, I appreciate being here on Black Non-Believers. I've been wanting to be here for a while, and I'm going to go through my whole story. I just need to let y'all know that when I was first deconstructing, the first thing that I put on my YouTube, on my Google, was Black Non-Believers. That's the first thing that I put, right? And that's when I found out that this entire platform even existed. But when it comes to me, I grew up as a pastor's child, essentially. My father is a pastor of the New Jerusalem Haitian Church of God, basically. And my entire life was basically that. My entire life was that. It was, you go to church, you believe, this is what we do. And it was an integral part of my identity. But I was also a very curious and inquisitive child. I always wanted to know why things worked the way that they worked. I always wanted to know why things are the way that they are, which got me in trouble a few times because when my parents would ground me or would tell me I'm in trouble for something, I'll ask why. I needed to know why. And if they didn't tell me why, I just didn't follow their instructions then, because you're not telling me why I should follow it. So it was one of those things that did get me in trouble for a little bit, but I ended up, listening to my parents most times. When it came to religion, however, that was one of the things that even though I had questions, I still pushed it to the back of my mind because of who am I to question the creator of the entire universe? Who am I to question that? And I did have the questions like Adam and Eve, where did Cain's wife come from? Jonah and the whale. How did he survive, 3 days inside the belly of something and not get digested, because at that age, you kind of learn that, your stomach does something. It dissolves food. You kind of intuitively know that, right? So these questions were always there. Same thing with Noah's Ark. These questions were always there, but I pushed it to the back of my head because who am I to question the almighty creator? And of course, when I had those questions, and it was questions that people couldn't answer, of course, they gave me the entire line. Don't question God's word. And they always told me furiously, do not question God's word. And, as a kid, y'all know how it is growing up in Black households, especially if you're Caribbean. You don't want your mama sandal to come out and get it thrown at your head. So I just stopped questioning it for a while. So I went through those days. I went through those times. But I think by the time I was probably a teenager, I kind of figured out that a lot of this wasn't true. I kind of figured out that some of this was either metaphorical or just complete BS. You know what I mean? Especially when it came to Adam and Eve. You know, by the time I'm 13, 14 years old and I'm in like learning sciences, biology and things like that. Once you're 13, 14, 15 years old, you're going to get some information on evolution. That's just going to come. So once I'm learning more about evolution, once I'm learning more about history, essentially, I'm seeing that history doesn't really match with the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, when was the Great Flood supposed to happen? When the Tower of Babel happened? Because you have Chinese history going back 5,000 to 6,000 years. You have Egyptian history going back 5,000 to 6,000 years. Even though they had flood myths, they're not at the same time, and they don't have the same details, you know. And not only that, none mention Noah. So, or like there were civilizations who existed throughout all this time that didn't have a flood myth at all. So, and now another thing I found interesting is that every civilization that does have a flood myth, it was near a body of water, like a river, a lake, near the ocean, things like that. So it was always one of those questions. You know what I mean? Always one of those questions like, is this actually true? So by the time I'm a teenager, I'm questioning Noah's Ark. By this time, I already know that Adam and Eve is crap. It's a whole bunch of crap. I already knew that, because where did Cain's wife come from? But I always push it to the back of my mind towards, like, I was more of the line of, this is something that God will explain to me, you know, probably after I die, or he will explain to me when I'm ready to know. You know, anybody who's a Christian has heard that before. God will tell you when you're ready to know, or after you die. Yeah, I mean, or just don't question it. Now, I go through all my teenage years doing these. In my teenage years, I'm the pastor's child, of course. They're grooming me. I hate to use that word, but that's basically what it was. They're grooming me to take over my dad's spot. You know, they're grooming me to take over my dad's spot. They're telling me that, hey, you're going to be the pastor of the church one day. At that time, being a teenager, you're always going to not just question certain things, but just as teenagers, you're going to be a bit rebellious. You're going to do things that you're not supposed to do around that time. So, but the thing is, the church at that time, it wasn't really fostering the youth. It was more about, you're the youth, you don't know anything, you're going to follow us. So what my friends from church have always told me was that when I become pastor, when I'm 20, 21, 22 years old, that's when they will take church seriously, because they know that I was being groomed to be the best spiritual leader, essentially. You know what I mean? I was groomed to be the pastor. So I did services, you know, I did it myself. When we had revivals, when we would visit other churches, I grew up in a Haitian church, but we will visit other Haitian churches. We will visit African-American churches. We will visit Hispanic churches, things like that. I was part of the youth choir. I can't sing now, so don't tell me to try to hold a note. I can't sing now, y'all. That's gone. But I was part of the youth choir. I was one of the people who will lead revival services at our church, things like that. I've done sermons, which is, me and my friends joke around that if it wasn't for morals, I could have a mega church on my hands, because when I tell y'all I could preach, I'm telling you I could preach, you know? Now, during this time, right, I'm basically on fire for Christ. You know, I was even a rapper. I'm not in my verse because it's cringe. I am not going to say my verse. That verse is cringe. I still remember it, but it's cringe. So I won't say my verse. But I was even a Christian rapper during that time. You know what I mean? And I was seriously considering, let me go to theology school. Let me go to seminary school to learn how to be a preacher, to learn how to, you know, ingratiate myself in the music industry, because I had homeboys who was rapping. You know, I had homeboys who was rapping. So during this time, I'm thinking that this is what I'm gonna be. You know, this is what I'm gonna be for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be a preacher. I'm going to be up there on fire for Christ, bringing people to the kingdom. Shout out to everybody who's dropping super chats, by the way. Drop some more. Drop some super chats for Black non-believers, y'all. I appreciate y'all. But at that point, when I became in my late teens and my 20s, I went to college, right? Growing up in a Caribbean household, especially for when it comes to Haitians, they tell you you're gonna be it's gonna be three things that happen: doctor, lawyer, engineer. That's the job routes essentially. That's our job routes: doctor, lawyer, engineer. And when it came to school, essentially, my parents told me you're either gonna go to work or you're gonna go to school. Now I had to do both. Me personally, I had to do both. I had to do both because you know, I had a car that was under my dad's name, but I had to pay the insurance. I had to pay my phone bill. They told me at 19 years old, you're going to go ahead and you're a man now, because we'll get into that. But, you know, black boys are adultified a lot. I'm 19, but I'm a man, and I have to go out and get a job and everything like that. What's funny about this is that the same time I'm in school, as I was said before in the in the intro, or as Edith said in the intro, I'm at school. I'm at school for I think back then I was studying pharmacology, which is right now I'm studying to be a mental health therapist. It's kind of crazy, but I was studying pharmacology back then. But I had to take an elective, and when I was choosing my elective, I said, "Oh, philosophy, easy." You know what I mean? What's so hard about sitting around thinking all day? Philosophy. You know, so I took a philosophy class, and that's when I heard that question, right? In my philosophy class, he was saying that in this class, we are going to challenge every single thing that you know and you believe. If you think that this shirt is black, I'm going to challenge you to see this shirt as blue another way. You know what I mean? That's what philosophy is all about. That's what I took that class for. I said, this is great. I want to learn. I want to open my mind up. I'm still that inquisitive person that wants to learn about everything, you know? So he told us to go ahead and write his intro, write out your intro essay, tell you what's your identity, what you believe, anything like that. My identity at that point was 100% on Christianity. I knew about black identity, but I was one of those people that says I was Christian before I was black. I was one of those people. Yeah. So I was one of those guys, right? So my entire 3-4 pages was all about my Christianity, all about it. I got the paper back. Now I got a good grade still, but my teacher pushed down on the paper. I understand everything that you believe, but you didn't tell me why you believed it. He wrote that on my paper. He said, I understood everything that you believe, but you didn't tell me why you believe it. I've never been challenged like that before. That challenge was never there. So once that happened, I sat there and I thought about it. And, you know, that inquisitive nature kept popped back in. It's like, yeah, why do I believe this? At that point, I knew that atheist was a thing, right? I knew it was a thing. But because I was so insulated within my community, atheism at that point was people who, number one, worship the devil. Crazy, right? But that was an atheist, someone who worshiped the devil, someone who knew God existed but hated him for some reason. Just like, you know, the kids that we see on TV that would be like, oh, I hate you, mom, and go to their rooms, you know? So that's what I thought an atheist was. 1, worship the devil. 2, just hates God. Or 3, something is genuinely wrong with them. You know? Something that's genuinely wrong with them, meaning they're unhealthy mentally, emotionally. Essentially, the way I was taught an atheist is a bad person. You know what I mean? Someone who hates God, someone who worships the devil, or someone who's genuinely wrong with them. So I was taught that an atheist is a bad person. You know? So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not atheist. You know what I mean? So I have to figure out why I believe this, because there's a good reason for me to believe it. So that's what brought me down to cascading of, why do I believe this? How can I know this to be true? These things were all happening at the same time. Me going to work in interacting with other people who are of other religions, other faiths, people who don't go to church at all, people who are part of the LGBTQ community. Because at that point, I thought, of course, being insulated and growing up in a culture that's very misogynistic, very patriarchal, very chauvinist, LGBTQ people are going to hell. You know, they're not right. Something is wrong with them, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things that I still believe and I was taught. But interacting with these other folks, I'm seeing that these are just normal folks that I've had an issue with for no reason. And it was basically a sense of cognitive dissonance, essentially. Like, all right, maybe some of them go to heaven and some of them go this way, you know? So that was one of the... I'm sorry, was that you?
Oh, no. But go ahead. You were saying that's how you're getting to the point now where you're seeing that the things that you believed about atheists were not true. Mm-hmm. You were starting to have these questions, and the philosophy teacher put you on a path. Mm-hmm. And so at some point you reconciled these ideas about atheism. How long ago would you say that was where you finally stopped having these doubts about, oh, there's atheists and they're not of the devil? When did you start to realize that these are just people, and do a kind of
a retrospect? Yeah. It was essentially, which is kind of funny when I got online, because one of the first memes that I remember was the internet is where religion goes to die. So when I got online and I started seeing this type of memes, I started, I was one of those people who would argue back and forth with folks all day, saying, I believe this and that, and God is saying this, and there's proof of that, and et cetera, and arguing back and forth. And people are just, hammering me, giving me the business on like, hey, like, listen, no, there's no proof of this. You're wrong about this. You're wrong about this. It was even coming from other Christians who thought better than I did. It was like, hey, no, you're wrong about that. These are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when I realized that, of course, I don't know everything, but I was insulated in a bubble thinking that this was everything, but it wasn't. It really wasn't. So once that happened, that's when I started to reconcile, okay, these are just normal people. And I think that deconstruction journey is what led me down this path of that normalization is what led me down the path of, let me look more into this to see what am I doing? What's going on?
Yeah. And probably I would venture to say that the idea of Christianity, that you have to try to save everyone and bring them into the fold, was really kept you kind of in that combative mode with everyone else who was trying to say, well, not everyone else, but yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that had to be difficult. And maybe that kind of steers into the next question. What was one of the most difficult parts of your deconstruction journey? And what steps did you take to overcome it? I think we kind of answered it, but yeah. I also wanted to ask, and maybe this we can talk about later, but because your family was very religious, your father was a pastor, how has that been in dealing with your family?
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely want to talk about that. When it came to, I think the hardest part of my deconstruction was that, well, it was twofold. Number one, again, this was part of my identity. This is, if I don't have this, who am I? It was such an integral part of who I am that I didn't realize that the way I dealt with that was I need to understand that things like politics, things like religion, things like your favorite music, these are not you as a person. These are things that you carry around with you. They're basically your worldviews, your opinions, and worldviews can change. You can change your musical taste, you can change your religion, you can change your political affiliation. I started off as a very social conservative to now I'm essentially basically a socialist, so it's very, very fluid. I had to learn that these are not things that are integral part of you. They are pieces, basically. They're books in your book bag. And what do we do when your books are outdated? When you go from elementary school to middle school, you throw those books away because now those books are outdated. When you go from middle school to high school, those books get thrown away because why? They're outdated. You get better knowledge. Same with college, you get better knowledge. So that's what happens when it comes to like things like religion and politics. Once new information comes in, you're gonna switch it up. You know what I mean? Because it's just better information that you get. So that's how I deal with it that way. But the second part that I had to deal with was what happens to the community. That's the thing that probably kept me in longer, where I would say that, well, I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. You know what I mean? Where I would say that God is the foundation of all reality, and Jesus is just the first person that understood it. You know what I mean? I was one of those people, you know, trying to fit it into the worldview somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Until I realized that if I'm saying he's the foundation of all reality, he's everything and anything. That's basically essentially, you know, the same as no God at all. So it's I had to realize that, you know, and those were the ways that I dealt with it. But not being part of a community anymore was one of those things that really scared me, because I was one of those people where whenever I speak to people who are apologists and they want to bring up, you know, you were just church hurt, that was the church that hurt you, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that I always tell them I wasn't hurt by church. You know, like a lot of my fondest memories are from church, from Christmas, my first girlfriend, church. That's where it all came from. My best friend today, the guy that I still talk to like for hours on end, he still goes to church. He came from church. You know, so it's like I mean, now I was lucky enough to be like a cisgender heterosexual male. So like I hit the lottery when it came to that, but still I understood that my fondest memories are from church. So I didn't have that type of hurt. You know what I mean? So it's losing the community is what scared me the most.
Okay, my mic was muted for a minute, but yeah, it's and so yeah, that's something that a lot of people, when they deconstruct, realize that their community is probably not going to continue to back them, and people struggle with that, and you know, that's the fear factor, and that's again one of the things, you know, that some of the things that Christianity does is, you know, why they call them, you know, you have to be a part of this group. It's very cultish, and but the good thing is, and I see this with people who deconstruct, is they realize that it is the fear that's holding them back, and to really be comfortable with being uncomfortable, stepping out into places and ideas and looking them in the face will, it does make you stronger, I think.
It does. Kind of, it does. Interacting with other people was what was great. You know, I mean, I had to learn that the world is larger than my bubble. You know, and I think everybody should learn that, no matter what your religion is, even if you deconstruct and stay. I've seen that before. People who deconstructed and stayed in a religion, which is all good and well, but at least they are able to analyze their religion or their beliefs critically. What I think we all need to do.
Right. Yes. So yeah, I remember. Like I could identify with what you were talking about. A lot of the people in the chat also identify with the idea that you are not supposed to question your parents. You're not supposed to question what they're telling you. You either got that cold stare or you got some corporal punishment for asking questions. And so yeah, that's something that a lot of non-believers had to overcome to get to this place of where I would call it this place of actual mental freedom, real freedom of thought. And yeah, so it's good. It's all good. So so now as we were talking about community, and this is kind of like a softball question. Come on. How important is it to find community? We know it is. And so how would you say that we should How should we all help to build better community? What are some of the things you would say?
I would say platforms like these are 100% the greatest first step. Because like I said, when I was deconstructing, when I realized that this is something that I may not believe anymore, the first thing that I looked up was Black non-believers. That was the first thing that I looked up, and that's when I found Mandisa. That's when I found this platform. That's when I found Bar. Black Atheist Rants is in the comments right now. He's one of the first people that I subscribed to. Yeah, I mean, once I saw that, another thing that I saw, there was a segment on Fox Soul. I'm not sure if you know who those. Yeah, that segment right there. When I was watching it, when I watched that segment, I was like, this makes a lot of sense. Like, these ladies are making sense. Yeah, I mean, these women are making 100% sense on what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, there's a whole community out there. You know, now it did become a thing where, even though I knew Black non-believers existed, there was organizations, there were people who were talking about it, there were people who were doing videos and everything like that. A lot of it still wasn't really centralized. Yeah, I mean, we all have people doing their own thing, which is why when I found black non-believers, you know, on Facebook, and I found, you know, Black atheist groups over on Facebook as well, I was like, this is all great, this is all wonderful. Do we all talk to each other? Like, we need to centralize, you know what I mean? So these platforms, you know, I love what Mandisa and you all have built, yourself as well, Miss Edith. I love what y'all have built, because this is wonderful. I think this is the biggest Black non-believer platform, the Black atheist platform. This made it be the biggest one. Everyone always speaks to you all. It's just that everybody else who has a platform as well, we all need to kind of speak to each other and kind of start to centralize it. Let's all talk. You know, that's what. I'm sorry, you're on mute. I didn't hear you.
I would say yes. We need to. I would say coordinate.
Yes, coordinate.
Let's coordinate. I'm trying to do that voice of the dad in Friday. It's not working out. So
oh, good. But that's what I've always said. Let's all coordinate. So these are great ways. I think empathy is another great way. Just having basic human empathy, and I think deconstructing from a lot of harmful practices, a lot of harmful beliefs as well, because you can deconstruct from religion, but that doesn't mean that you deconstruct it from misogyny. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm part of Black non-believers, and, you know, I entered this and I'm a misogynist, how am I ever going to, you know, follow you, Miss Edith, or Mandisa? I can't follow y'all, because I believe that women have a certain place, which, you know, after I deconstructed from religion, a lot of that was still kind of there. You know what I mean? But one thing about me is that when I said that if this religion that I believe is not true, what else that I believe about the world is also not true? So that's when I started looking more into things. I was one of those guys that thought that, oh, you know, women are more emotional and men are the logical ones. But then I realized that, hold on, me as a person, I was insecure as a kid. Even in my early 20s, I was still very insecure. So isn't that an emotion? You know what I mean? So why am I saying that women are emotional? Like, I have emotions too, don't I? I was one of those kids who were, you know, a lot of times couldn't control my anger when I was like 5-6 years old. I was one of those throwing chairs type of kids. You know what I mean? So it's like that's emotional as well. Like, the women in my life weren't throwing chairs. I was one throwing chairs. So like, yeah, exactly. So
you would have been a very good Waffle House employee. I don't know.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah, I would have been a very good one, you know. So it's like I had to question all of these you know, misogynist and patriarchal things that I was taught. And to be honest, I'm still learning. There might be still, you know, patriarchal things that I still believe. There might still be misogynist things that I still believe, you know. So it's one of those things where I don't know it until I say something, and then it's called out to me, and then I can deconstruct from it. But still, at least I know that that it may still exist. You know, I think these are the type of things that as we build community, we need to deconstruct from everything that we've learned, because again, if this religion, if this, you know, person on high is likely untrue, what else is likely untrue that you believe? You'll be surprised how many homophobic atheists that I've met. And I'm super surprised at it all the time. I'm like, why? Why?
That's something that I've come across lately is agnostics or people who don't believe in God but are still racist. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And the thing you were talking about just a second ago about emotion, women are being those high emotions being attributed to women. All you got to do is sit back and think for a second. Who has started all the wars? Who's in jail for killing and beating and robbing? It just
it's us. It's us. It's the male population.
By
exactly.
And large. But and that's an important. I'm glad you brought that up today, as we are in Women's History Month. Gotta keep all of the innovators and originators in our at top of our mind this month and all months, but especially this month.
Exactly. It was all just one, just like how you said, it was and this is why I talk, politics as well on my channel, because a lot of these are, political, like they like religion affects our lives a lot, but it spills over into the political sphere because, all of the policies, way too much, like you said, way too much. All the policies on, controlling women's bodies with, anti-reproductive rights that comes from religion, like women are supposed to belong to us, man-made. I mean, women are made from men's ribs and everything like that. You'd be surprised how many people still believe that men and women have an unequal amount of ribs. Like it's so stupid. People still believe it.
What did you say? An unequal amount of
ribs? Because because Eve was made from Adam's ribs, so people still believe that men are missing one rib. There's folks who still believe that, and it's ridiculously dumb, but people still believe it, and all of these policies that we see that are against women, against the transgender community, it's all about against freedom of expression. It's all about these religious expressions, these religious beliefs, spills over into politics, which is why I thought I'd talk about it a lot, to deconstruct from harmful practices and beliefs as well, which is why that pushed me further and further to the left, because it's like, why do I believe these certain things about society or how it should be ran or what these policies should be? There's no good reason for it.
I mean, I grew up in a Christian household and was baptized very early, but I still, in the back of my mind, I always had the questions, and I could inherently see the double standards when it comes to gender stuff and male and female roles. I could inherently see the, like I said, the disparities, I said the word earlier, but the inconsistencies of it all. It was like I could see the males were able to do certain things that women weren't able to do or weren't supposed to do. And I thought, that kind of takes away my humanity, because there's nothing inherently gender specific about wanting to build a go-kart, but those type of things are attributed to males. Anyway, Mandisa, you wanted to hop in here?
Now, I just have a quick question for Volcy before we wrap up. Thank you once again for being on the show, and good to finally connect. So you said you were in school for what now?
I'm in school for clinical mental health counseling.
Okay, yes, clinical mental health counseling. And so, like you said, you're a PK, a pastor's kid, like many folks who have deconstructed and now become atheists. And as you know, that does come along with the status as well as a privilege. So in your educational path, as well as your community path, how do you internally reconcile perhaps the subconscious, like misogyny or views that you may have or that come along with that, because people, as we deconstruct, we may realize that, it is a problem, right? But we may not realize how we may still be carrying it out in our everyday being. So how do you help in addition to if something is brought to your attention in your educational path, as well as your content creation and your community building, how do you try and maybe keep track of these things that you are still deconstructing from, that are coming from being a preacher's kid, coming from having that privilege, and now coming into this space?
What I did a lot was basically write it down. If I was called out for something that was, off, or misogynist or anything like that, I would write it down. Even though it made me recoil, like, wow, I actually said this, I had to understand that, this is something that's harmful, so I need to remember it. If it's something that I didn't write down, I'll make sure that it's scarred into my memory, like saying something like, okay, this was something very, very harmful and very embarrassing that I said. So it's not about me being embarrassed, it's about the harm that I caused. And I should be embarrassed, So I know a lot of people like reminisce a lot of times about embarrassing moments. Me is all the times that I've said something that was either misogynist or homophobic or ableist or anything like that. Even though I felt the embarrassment, I still tell myself I need to feel that, because I need to remember what I did. For me to not cause that harm again. I always try to check myself, like try to research as much as I can. I speak to people who are in the who are more well versed in feminist literature, especially Black feminist literature. I speak with them as well, and it's like, hey, is there anything new that came out? Who else should I read? Or if someone is like, if I follow a content creator who's talking about the harm that men or males can cause, I read exactly what she or he is saying, or he, she, or they, I read exactly what they're saying, and I try to take that in to understand exactly, is this something that I've done before myself as well? Or I even ask them, hey, what can I read to learn more about this? Because I never thought about it this way. What else can I read? And a lot of times they're very nice about it. I spoke to Feminista Jones before, and I said, hey, can you what can I read to understand more about what you said? And she gave me a list of readings, and they're in my Amazon cart right now for me to get them and read them, because I just want to understand, make sure that I cause as less harm as possible, because that's part of being a counselor. I don't want to harm someone or bring in a belief that will harm them, and that includes Christians. So I know I might get some Christian clients, and me being a non-believer, because I've heard from some Christians that said that before, that they can go to their pastor, but they'll rather go to someone who is not really aligned with their belief, because I can call out what they don't see, or what they're blind to. So I need to make sure that even in my content, I'm not out there saying, if you believe in a religion, you're, down here and you don't think as well as I do. No, I'm not about that. I'm all about think critically about what you believe and what you're saying, and what it can cause what harm it can cause towards other people. That's how I do that.
Okay, and finally, real quick, you are hosting an event. It is the same weekend as our Revival of Reason, but please do let our viewers, as well as yours who are watching, shout out to y'all. Give a plug real quick for the event that you're having in June.
Definitely. The event that I'm having in June is the Black Atheists, Agnostics, and Skeptics Humanists Cookout. that's a lot, but it's called the BASH Cookout for short, BAASH, Black Atheists, Agnostics, Skeptics, and Humanists Cookout. It's going down from June 12th to 14th in Central Florida, in the Central Florida area. We're going to have a meetup on Friday night to have dinner. Saturday is the cookout all day, games, freeze tag, flag football, everything like that. And then on Sunday, we'll go out to breakfast. Saturday night, we'll go out. I'll get us a section, some hookahs if y'all want. Who knows? We'll go ahead and get lit. And on Sunday morning, we'll have breakfast and wait for everybody to go home. It is going to be in Central Florida, and the links are in my bio as well. You can go and check them out and reserve for that. And next year, I would definitely love for it to be part of the Revival of Reason. I would definitely love to do it at the same time, because if these things happen at the same time, then awesome. This is what I would like for to happen. For people who are Black non-believers, Black irreligious people, to come together as one community and to have a central platform for us to coordinate and for us to speak to each other.
Absolutely. And not feeling like we're reinventing the wheel or doing something in addition to or different than what is already being done. And so,
Right.
yes,
It sounds like
we absolutely should be working more together to combine our resources and put them all together. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And since we're both since y'all are both in the Southeast, it could be a meeting in the middle.
Yeah.
Of both. Geographically, I'm saying a meeting in the middle and combine resources and combine all of our fellowship opportunities.
Absolutely. We'll be in touch about that. I'm getting some really good ideas about like either a think tank or, like a leadership consortium about what we're doing and how we can continue to do it together. So this is really giving me some good some good ideas, and I'm glad we connected, Volcy.
Definitely. Me too. Because I've been wanting to connect with you all since I heard of it. I was like, oh, Black non-believers, and I'm an unbeliever. I gotta connect.
It's been really exciting to get to meet you. And like I said, I had somehow in the interwebs had been looking up the Fawahodi tattoo, and I was like, wait a minute. And then, of course, the light bulb went off. So this has been really exciting. And I want to thank you, Volcy, for being our guest today. If you are not already following him on social media, please do so at the following. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him on TikTok. You can find him on Threads, Instagram, all at Volcy Thoughts.
Yes.
So thanks again for
Thank you, Volcy.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right, you take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was. And so we're going to get into our upcoming events real quick. I will post the links. Edith, if you want to shout them out.
Sure. So Sunday, March 29th in Detroit, Michigan, we're going to be the How Religion Learned to Justify Violence Part 2, noon Eastern Standard Time tour of the Zekelman Holocaust Center. It's going to be followed by lunch at the Stage Deli. You can find information on that at Meetup. And I believe then we're also going to have in April, moving right along, April 5th, Sunday, April 5th in Atlanta, Georgia, there's going to be bowling on Resurrection Sunday. Get it? You stand the pins up. I get it. You resurrect the bowling. I love it. And that's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time at the Comet Pub Lanes. Games and shoes are going to be $12. If you need help, we've got you. You can find out more about this at meetup.com, Black Nonbelievers/events. And then I guess there's probably going to come up something in May, but as events unfurl, we will let you know. But that puts us in June. We're going to have the Revival of Reason that we were just talking about. That's going to be June 12 through 14. That's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. I believe you got the venue, correct?
Yes, we will be at the Atlanta Free Thought Hall and Pavilion, which is on like the northwest side. It's formerly in Smyrna near Cobb County, but it is still Atlanta. So we will be there. There's going to be, it's an old church, but it's a hall and pavilion. I know you've been there before, Edith. So
I think that was actually first time that I saw you in person.
Yeah.
I think that was like my first. Yeah, I think that was my first actual meetup with other non-believers. There were also allies of all shades there. But yeah, it was at the Free Thought Hall in Atlanta. So we're going to have speakers. We're going to have Chris Cameron, Candace Gorham, Godless Engineer, Kelly King, Hemet Mehta is going to be there, Cynthia McDonald, and there will be other speakers as well. So you can get tickets. I think we've got the tickets on sale, as you were saying.
Yes. And official BN members, you can get your $5 member discount, and that's even on the virtual registration. And if you're a student, you can get that virtual registration even more deeply discounted. There's already student discounts for in-person and virtual. So yes, get that. Use that member discount code if you're an official BN member to register for the Revival of Reason.
Nice. Yep, that's going to be a good time. And then in November 28th through December 6th, we have our annual BN SeaCon cruise. It's going to be on the Carnival Celebration. It's going to be 7 nights. We sail November 29th through December 6th, and we will have a pre-cruise event the day before. So we'll be starting out in Miami. Then we're going to go to Isla Tropical, Roatan, Cozumel, Mexico, Celebration Key in the Bahamas. So yeah, it's going to be a nice time out on the water. We've got our speakers lining up quite nicely. We're going to have Godless Engineer, Mandisa Thomas, Black Atheist Rants,
and shout out to Bar, who's in the chat. Yes,
nephew in the chat.
Yeah,
it's all good. And so prices start at $8.50 per person. We can help you if you need a cabin mate. We can help you with that. And so just reach out at bit.ly/BN SeaCon 2026 for further information. Did you extend the deadline for the deposits?
Yes, there's still time. There's still time to get in your initial deposit. Not much though, but you can still pay incrementally. It's just that the initial payment rate will increase, and that's to keep in touch with, that's to keep in pace with how we have to pay for, for the cruise line, and then also to line up the speakers and such. But there is still time to get your initial deposits in, but do so before it goes up.
Okay. Absolutely. So that's all we have for upcoming events. But like I say, as things move forward, we might slip in some things in May or June.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So stay tuned, and you can always become an official member of BN. The events that we talked about, some of those where they are ticketed, you can get your discounts on those. But we also want to, let you know that you can be a board member. You can apply to be a board member. You can run for these positions. And we appreciate everyone's support, either in a leadership role, I'll call it that, but really it's not hierarchical. We lock arms together to create this community. So also, I know Volcy had said he can't sing, but we do. We've got Godless Gospel, and it's an ensemble of singers. But right now we're looking for tenors. So if you've got some vocal chops, this is a paid opportunity. You can submit your audition to godlessgospel.org. And I've heard the Godless Gospel Ensemble sing many times, and it just brings such energy and good feelings, and just like the God, like gospel, but without the dogma. So it's quite enjoyable and really does get you feeling good. So.
Yeah, so we're gonna wrap here, Edith. Thanks to everyone who dropped us a super chat. Resist Oppression, Cynthia, Detroit Atheist Queen Kelly, Bar. We appreciate all of you. Please do like and subscribe, and please do donate. Drop us another super chat. Visit our website. Register for the Revival of Reason. Register for BN SeaCon. We will be back in the 1st of April. So thank you once again. We're still working on the online store. So hopefully by the next show, our store will be right back up because we do have our 15th anniversary special edition shirts for sale. So
Yes.
we're going to fix that, and we will see y'all later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.